Welcome back to Atypical Talk. This is a podcast where we have conversations that illuminate the intersection of faith, culture, and the common spaces of our humanity. I'm Abby.
I'm Allison.
And I'm Joel.
We're jumping in with our first question. If someone were to come to you, Allison, and say, I need you to give a 30-minute speech right now, what is something that you think you know well enough that you could fill 30 minutes with?
This is an interesting question because I don't really feel like I know enough about one topic to talk for 30 minutes. I could talk about a lot of things for like 3 minutes, but the one thing I came up with was Indiana wineries. So I have been to more than 40, and
They're what, in Indiana?
Oh, there's more than 100 just in Indiana, but so many of them like close in a season and some open. So like, I feel like I know I won't ever get to them all just because they come and go so much. But yeah, there's so many, and some that like GPS can hardly find. They're like, over the river and through the woods to grandma's house kind of a thing. But yeah, I've been to a lot and I love them. So
wow, that's what we're known for here in Indiana. Wine. That's everybody around the world's like, I gotta get to Indiana for wine.
You gotta visit where you are. But
That's
I've been
awesome.
to Michigan and other places with wineries as well. But I could talk for 30 minutes about Indiana wineries. Not be mad about it. What about you, Joel?
Again, kind of like you, I know a little bit about many things, but there are other things that I could really talk about for a really long time, and my wife would just be like glazing over hearing about it. But for me, one would be the greatest rock band of the last 50 years, after the Beatles, would be the Irish rock band U2. And I have been a super fan of U2 since I was in high school, when I saw U2 play at the Super Bowl halftime show right after 9/11, and just like blew the top off my head. I've seen them live like 12 times. I've seen them on every tour since 2005, actually. And I have all the DVDs of the old tour so I could talk about their whole history. And I just found out they're doing like a Netflix documentary season on the band U2. So I'm just like, I'm all in. I could tell you all about, Bono, The Edge, but like Bono's real name is not Bono. It is... oh my gosh, I'm spacing it in this moment.
I actually love that.
Oh, that's so embarrassing, and it's going to come back to me. I know The Edge's real name is Dave Evans, which The Edge is a much cooler nickname. Oh,
generic.
Bono, come on, it's Paul Hewson. Paul Hewson, that's his name. And then the other two guys in the band, Adam Clayton, who plays bass, and Larry Mullen Jr., who plays drums, just has the normal kind of boring names.
Generic.
But yeah, I could talk about U2, and I know the inside of all the lyrics of all their songs and what they played on their tours, and I'm a big nerd, and everybody just thinks about U2 as the band that put that awesome album on your phone for free that everybody was upset about. But yeah, I could talk about them for a long time.
Yeah. For me, it took a lot of thinking, like you guys, to figure out what exactly I feel like I could talk about for that long. And I play video games a lot, but my favorite one is Fallout 4. I'm wearing a Fallout t-shirt right now. But I just absolutely love the lore, the whole storyline in that specific game. So I feel like I could talk about that for a long time, talk about all the different creatures and characters you meet along the way. And yeah,
How many Fallouts are there?
There's 5 or 6.
Oh,
I think
my goodness.
6.
But 4 alone, you could just talk about this
Yeah.
4 for 30 minutes.
And
Man, I'm not cool enough for this.
No, me either.
That's the one that got me like into those games, just because I'm very drawn to a game with really good graphics, and that one is like very graphically intense and is just like beautiful scenery and stuff. And so that's what drew me into that.
See, that's
one.
interesting with me too, because U2 is probably the band that helped me fall in love with music and live music, which is such a huge part of my life. I don't know what that says about Allison, that wineries was her thing.
I actually did not like wine up until a couple of years ago. I had a friend that's what she wanted to do for her birthday, was go visit a winery. So I'm like, okay, I don't like wine, but sure, let's go. And so it has just kind of become our thing now. And so we just go together and we sample the different kinds, and we found lots that we like and lots that we would never ever want to taste again.
Yeah.
So it's an experience, Joel. It's like a live concert. See?
Just like it.
Yeah.
Just like it.
There's people watching everywhere, and isn't that why you go to the concert? I mean, okay, fine.
So for our first topic, we're going to kind of go away from talking about an article. Today we're going to be talking about a song. The song is by the artist Catie Turner. She was a contestant on season 16 of American Idol. She got the golden ticket to Hollywood after impressing the judges with her song 21st Century Machine. She ended up placing in the top 7. Since then, she has released 2 EPs and numerous singles, one of those being her 2021 hit, God Must Hate Me. It's a heartbreaking song about body image and comparing yourself to others. Here's a clip from that song.
Do you ever see someone and think, wow, they got lucky? The craftsmanship of their bones, their brain and their body. When I look into the mirror for too long, it hurts. They don't track how many steps it takes to burn off dessert. Do you ever see someone and think, wow, they got lucky? I'll let them take accountability for everything that's wrong with me. Can't hold myself responsible, so I blame the metaphysical. If Jesus died for all our sins, he left one behind, the body I'm in. Same hands that made the moon and the stars, got carpal tunnel and forgot some parts. I don't know what I believe, but it's easier to think he made a mistake with me.
So there's a short section of the song. There have been several Christian parody songs that have changed the lyrics of this song to be a praise song instead of what it originally was. One of them was by TikTok user Official Gabriel Storm. He changed the lyrics to be, if Jesus died to save our sins, he left the 99 to save the body I'm in. The same God who made the moon and the stars created me and formed my heart. I know what I believe, and it's easier to think he made me perfectly. Now, I first heard her song through TikTok. I came across her account, and there were several other people who were like, this song really connects with me. And there were people who, they just had body image issues, as many young women do. And there were some people who connected it to it because they had a disability or mental illness that they felt made them different from other people, and so people were connecting to that song in those ways as well. But I want to talk a little bit about your reactions to the song, and then your reaction to Official Gabriel Storm's version of the song. So what do you guys think about this?
Yeah, so for me, I have a love-hate relationship with the song. Honestly, I hate that so many people can relate to it. I hate that we compare ourselves to others. I hate that we look at clothes like we were made to fit in them instead of they were made to fit us. I hate that, if we think if we have freckles or acne or glasses or anything, that we think that we are not as good as someone else. So I literally hate everything about that part. But I love that she speaks about it so bluntly, because that's reality. And so it can be super cathartic for people. And I love that. But it's one of those songs that you don't want to relate to, but unfortunately, a lot of times you can. So it's a tension-filled song for me, I guess, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think, again, you feel for her for feeling that way, and you want to be like, oh, but that's not true. And I think that's a little bit of what, the parodies come to. But there's another part of me that just feels like, this is a real, authentic emotion. This is someone who's being honest and not putting the metaphorical newspaper over the mess that she feels like she is. That I think that in faith circles we need to make space for, because God wants us to be honest. He already knows how we're feeling. He doesn't want a fake version of us. So whatever mess we're feeling, I think we need to find ways to bring it to him. I think that's one of the most powerful things about this massive part of the Hebrew scriptures in our Bible called the book of Psalms. It's just like, 150 chapters of old worship songs and prayers. And they really, when you look at them with a bird's eye view, they really help us bring all different types of emotions to God so that he can be present with us in our emotions, and he helps us process our emotions. I mean, there's a lot of songs where they are the praise songs of, worshiping God and celebrating who he is and what he has done. But 40% of all the Psalms are actually called laments. And that's not like French for a breath mint. A lament is an idea of, crying out to God, of anguish, of anger, of deep, dark sadness, and bringing that to God. So there's a huge tradition inside of our Bibles of people not just saying the pretty things, not just experiencing the happy-go-lucky rainbow butterflies feelings about God, but bringing their anger and their hurt to God. And so I think that she's just maybe falling into that. And man, I think our churches and our faith community should have space for the Monday through Saturday kind of emotions, not just the everything's amazing, clap your hands because Jesus is alive, but the other emotions Monday through Saturday that we all face. And we need to learn to bring God into those spaces of what we're feeling. I mean, some of these Psalms of lament, like Psalm 22 starts like this: my God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me, so far from my cries of anguish? I mean, it doesn't sound like he's real happy inside of that, right? Another Psalm, Psalm 44 says this in verse 23: awake, Lord, why do you sleep? Rouse yourself, do not reject us forever. Why do you hide your face and forget our misery and our oppression? Another Psalm, Psalm 60, says this: you have rejected us, God, and burst upon us. You have been angry. Now restore us, please. So you see, it's not all just the happy-go-lucky emotions, but it's the sad stuff too. And man, I long for people of faith to understand that you don't have to hide how you feel, but be real, be honest, because your honest, authentic self is where transformation can really begin. It's where it needs to begin with what's going on.
Yeah. So like the parodies, I mean, I get it. Like you want to make, Jesus look loving, and at his core, like he is love, but I would never want to like invalidate the original artist's intent, because like you were talking about, like if, she's got church trauma, we don't know, all these things that people come to the table with, their doubts and their questions and all of these things, this hurt, grief, whatever it is that she's working through. So if this is a way for her to express that and to get that out and to kind of move forward, like good for her. And so, because a lot of us don't, and we literally just carry it around with us until we can't carry it anymore. And then, the bottom falls out kind of a thing. So, for me, like if you find a way to kind of create space, like Joel mentioned, or find somebody to talk to, or have an outlet like music or art or whatever it is, then like do that. Do a lot of that. Yeah. And, just kind of, ignore the parodies or the people who want to say other things about what you're doing, because you're putting in the work to move forward and kind of express what you're feeling. And
this is sort of in the what grinds Joel's gears category sometimes, when people of faith, Christians, when we like judge somebody for what they're doing and they're not even maybe inside of the church, like, oh man, I can't believe what so and so celebrity is doing and stuff like that, and we want to rant about it and make a huge deal to protest against this person, and like it's just so clear as day, like Paul says in 1 Corinthians 5, what business is it of mine to judge those outside the church? Like, we spend so much time pouring our light and our energy talking about what's going wrong outside of the church. And you know what? There's a lot of junk and things we need to clean up inside of the church first. And so, I just say more power to her. I hope that she comes to realize that, yes, she can feel that way, but she has a Heavenly Father who is with her and experiences that pain with her, and that she can meet him through that artistic expression. But man, Jesus people, like, let's just lay off and let people experience and express themselves. And you don't have to listen to it. There's another thing.
For sure.
You don't have to listen to it. Yeah. You don't have to have your kids listen to it when you're with them. And who would have thought, you don't have to have this massive opinion and shame people for everything.
Yeah.
Crazy idea.
The vibe I got from the parody song was basically a vibe of, hey, I don't like this, so let me fix your song for you. This is how I want it to be. And I think it's a very, I don't know, a naive take to think that, you know, you're going to hurt God's feelings or something if you are critical of him. And so it just seemed very not kind the way that he was doing this. It wasn't like he was making his own worship song. He was taking hers and changing it so that he would like it. And a lot of people in the comments, this might be a toxic trait of mine, but I love looking at comments.
I always deep dive the comments, girl.
It's totally a toxic trait. The worst things that happen on planet Earth happen in comment sections.
But everyone that was commenting was like, this is in bad taste. You shouldn't be, you know, making this song. If you wanted to make a song with these lyrics, you could have done your own thing and not tried to change her song to be what you wanted it to be.
Yeah. And on your point of, you know, we feel like we're going to hurt God's feelings, like what a small little vision of God that creates, right?
Yeah.
Eugene Peterson, who was behind the Message paraphrase of the Bible, great pastor and author and theologian. I love what he said about the Psalms. I love this. He said that praying the Psalms is learning to cuss at God without cussing. So what he was saying was it's learning how to bring all of your negative emotions and what you're really thinking to God in a way that honors him instead of hiding it and pushing it down. And so we should really have this big picture of God who's big enough for the hardest things that we face and our darkest emotions and wants us to bring it to him so that he can transform us through them.
Yeah.
That almost rhymed, and I didn't do that on purpose. Sorry about that.
Yeah. But I mean, it is a very powerful song, and it really spoke to me as, you know, someone who did have body image issues and still deals with that kind of stuff. Like, these are real emotions that people feel, and it is insensitive to, you know, ignore those and try to make it, you know, a happy song, something that makes you feel good.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to work through the mess. Not everything feels great.
Yeah,
That's okay.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're going to jump into our second topic today. It is about a woman who bought a sculpture at Goodwill for $34.99. It was actually a missing ancient Roman bust. This is a USA Today article by Jordan Mendoza. Now, I'm sure a lot of people have seen this article. It's been going around quite a bit. But in 2018, an art collector named Laura Young was looking for art pieces at a Goodwill in Austin, Texas, when she found an old bust of a man that was for sale for $34.99. After consulting many experts, it was found that this sculpture is from late 1st century BC to early 1st century AD. And it's believed to either depict a son of Pompey the Great, who was defeated in civil war by Julius Caesar, or it is Roman commander Drusus Germanicus. The bust had belonged to King Ludwig I of Bavaria, who lived from 1786 to 1868, and was part of a full-scale model he built of a house from Pompeii in Germany. The house stood for nearly 200 years, but during World War II, it was severely damaged by Allied bombers. It's believed that a U.S. soldier took the bust home with them as a souvenir, and that's how it ended up in a Goodwill in Texas. Since Laura wasn't the rightful owner of the bust because it was given away or sold to someone, she was unable to keep or sell it. She did receive a finder's fee for returning the bust, but did not disclose the amount.
This is insane.
I know.
Like, so many parts of it are just like, what?
There's just piece after piece after piece of how this all fell into place.
Don't you just wish there was like a camera on this thing to see all that this
the
bust
life
has
it's lived?
seen?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
could be a whole movie, you know, the journey of this thing.
Well,
It's
and one of the
crazy.
pictures that you'll see if you look at the article, she has it like strapped into her passenger seat in the car, which I love so much because, you know, I do the same thing with like my, you know, morning donuts kind of a thing. But it's just like riding shotgun. And I'm like, this is hundreds of years old. This is insane.
From the time of Christ.
Yeah.
Like, that's what we're talking about here, right?
Yeah.
I just
Crazy.
cannot imagine realizing that and then realizing that she really can't make a bunch of money off of
No.
it, too.
Yeah.
That's,
That's
and she doesn't get to
frustrating
keep it.
She-
So
yeah.
sad.
I'd love to know what that finder's fee is, but I'm sure it's disappointing. compared to
Yeah,
what it
it's
could
probably
be.
$34.99. This is what you paid for it. Congrats.
Yeah.
Man.
But yeah, that is, it's nuts.
Yeah. Have you ever found anything at a Goodwill or a garage sale or something like that that you felt was worth a lot?
Oh man, no.
No.
Not that I think would be worth anything.
I once found an original pressing of an incredible Rolling Stones record. I've started to collect vinyl records, and so I found Let It Bleed, and it was an original pressing, and this is from the late 60s, and I was so excited about it, and I actually paid quite a bit for it, and I got it home, and I was so excited to listen to it, and it was like so scratched up that it's like inaudible. So now I own this classic record, and I paid a lot for it, and I kind of just want to listen to it, over speakers through the Apple Music app instead.
Oh, no.
I was pretty pumped about that. Finding it, though, it smelled old. It smelled like rock and roll is what it smelled like.
Well, you can still take a picture, and be like, I have this, because
Yeah.
technically you do,
Yeah.
but...
Yeah, old records just have a weird smell to them.
They do.
I have a handful of old ones. They're really old ones, like a Julie Andrews Christmas album from like 1960 or something like that. But yeah, they just have a funky smell.
Yeah, but I'm not the Goodwill shopper. I've never found that as like a fun activity, and I know it is for so many people.
Yeah. Goodwill tends to stress me out. No offense, Goodwill, if you're listening, because I know it's organized to an extent, but not enough for my anxiety. But my college-age daughter, they do that for fun. They just go to Goodwill and look for the random T-shirts or hoodies or whatever. And we were actually there yesterday, and she got 2 T-shirts and a sweatshirt kind of thing. So she was on cloud 9. But
That's awesome.
What about you, Abby? Have you do the Goodwill thing?
Yeah,
What have you found? Anything fun?
The one thing I can think of is I found this cute jumpsuit that I really liked. It was for sale for like $8 there. Had the tags on it. It was originally $250.
What?
I was like, I am getting this. I thought it would be way too long on me because I'm kind of short, so jumpsuits usually drag on the floor, but it fits perfectly with a pair of heels, and
I
it
love
looks really nice. Yeah.
But
yeah.
200. I mean, I'm just thinking. You're going to sell that, right?
Yeah.
You get that and you flip that, right, Abby? What are you thinking? I don't care how good it looks, right? No? Is that not how that works? Okay.
But yeah, we have, people here at the church all the time, they are constantly going to Goodwill and looking for, finds and just random things. And yeah, I feel like it would stress me out, but they love it.
I'm just disappointed because I almost have a complete Roman bust collection. And
You were missing the one piece.
she found it before I could find the one. Could you imagine?
Yeah.
So creepy walking into a room. Oh, it's people's sculptures of their heads.
Staring at you.
That's cool.
Yeah. If you saw our post from earlier this week when, this day when we were recording, we had a picture of our friend Star-Lord.
Chris Pratt from Guardians of the Galaxy.
He's everywhere.
It's a cardboard cutout that our coworker Nico, he found at a Goodwill, and it has been creeping around the church ever since.
He says it's his best $10 purchase ever.
I just know that I have lost years of my life from the fear that thing has struck into my heart as it's been like in my office as I turn on the lights and I think there's a 6'4" man here.
He's been in the bathroom. He's
Yeah.
been everywhere.
Truly terrifying. But he said it was a great purchase for $10. So
Honestly.
So if you guys could see one movie again for the first time, what movie would it be and why?
I did not have to think hard about this.
I figured.
My friends that know me well know that I'm a big geek and I love, Star Wars and comic book movies and things like that, and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And for me, it's really clear that I would see Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame. I think of that as like one movie because they were tied together, but it's the end. It's the culmination of like 21 different movies of a continuous story that I remember going to see Avengers Endgame, the last one, in theaters on like a Thursday night premiere with a packed theater, and I'm sitting right next to my wife who just indulges me in these experiences. She doesn't really like the movies, but I'm like crying profusely, just embarrassing her because it was so moving, and it was such a powerful experience, and I have goosebumps as I talk about it. And some of you are thinking I'm crazy, and yes, you are right. But if I could go back and see it again for the first time in a crowded room, I mean, it would be quite the experience. I would probably cry all over again. That'd be me.
So for me, mine is more obscure, we watched a movie called The Power of One my sophomore year in high school. And you're like, you actually enjoyed a movie that you had to read the book in English class? Yeah, I actually did. Shout out to my, 10th grade English teacher, Judy Suffield. But anyways, the movie came out in like 1992. I think I watched it probably in like 97 or 98. But Morgan Freeman's in it, Daniel Craig, some of the people that, you kind of hear about. But it takes place in the 1930s and about an orphan who's like terrorized for his family's political beliefs, and he befriends a prisoner who teaches him how to box. And it's loosely based off a true story, which I also love, like documentaries and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But it takes place in South Africa. So it was kind of the first movie that I remember watching that dealt with like injustices and discrimination and inequality, and also gave me just this bug to travel and see more of the world and meet new people and just learn about people, and to not just be a tourist, but to like be in the country or wherever you're at. And so anyways, you would have to, I think if you ever wanted to watch it, you'd probably have to, find an old VHS and then something to play it on. I don't really know if you can watch it anyplace else, but it's, it's not going to be a cinematic masterpiece. I can't even think of the right word, but like the quality is going to be VHS quality. Okay. So let's
sure
just
they
call
shot
it
in
what
HD.
it is. Back in 1992, things were a little bit different, but I loved that movie and I still think about it.
I have never heard of this movie.
Yeah. Are you
at all.
Googling it right now?
I am on imdb.com
Okay.
doing all of the research.
I'm afraid to know what like the
As we
Rotten
speak.
Tomatoes and
You
all
don't
that.
want to hear that. You don't want to hear that.
I really don't.
But oh my goodness.
But you could read the book
Yeah, it's
probably
based
at
off
your
a book.
local
And then
library.
also, apparently, you can watch it on Hulu. So it is
okay.
currently streaming on Hulu, and I found the next thing that I'm going to stream because it sounds really fascinating.
It is.
And if it's not good, I'll just make fun of you for having a bad taste in
That's
movies.
totally fine. I don't care.
I mean, I know it deals with injustice, but like Thanos was taking out half of the galaxy, so that's real injustice
I mean, basically
too,
the same thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
No. What about you, Abby?
Now, Endgame is really close to the top for me as well. I really enjoy, all the Marvel movies and stuff, but I really like horror movies. So I think back to the first movie that like really scared me was The Dark Knight, and so feeling that fear again, I feel like would be awesome.
Wait, the Batman movie, The Dark Knight?
Yeah.
I would never in a million years call that a horror movie.
I know.
But she
I'm
What
said
saying
scared you
fear.
about it? What scared you?
Joker just I was like 11 years old, Joel.
Okay, you were, yeah, that's a good point. You were younger. I remember thinking, this dude's epic. What a great bad guy. And you're terrorized for the rest of your
Yeah.
life.
Also, I was probably a real adult at that point when Abby was 11.
Man.
So like that's the first movie that scared me. So, going back to that emotion would be really cool. Or also, I really enjoy M. Night Shyamalan movies. And so I think The Village was the biggest twist for me. And so being able to experience that again would be awesome.
They're all great twists, but The Village is one that, everybody hated on that movie, but it blew the top off
love
my
it.
head at the end
Yeah.
because I did not see that coming. And, M. Night Shyamalan, Sixth Sense, Signs was another one that blew
Yeah.
the top off my head. And that scared me living around cornfields at the time.
I remember that
Yeah.
too.
That would be good to go back and those big twists, like,
Yeah.
he was dead the whole time kind of thing. Like, that's fun.
But I hate watching those with someone who figures out the twist before it happens. I'm like, no, you're not supposed to know it yet.
That's usually me watching like crime shows or whatever. I'm like, oh, it was this guy. My
That's-
husband's like, stop it.
The worst attribute of my wife is that she's so smart.
Yeah, she's got a big brain.
Big brain, and whatever movie we're watching, I'll be like, if I've already seen it, I'm pumped for her to watch it. And we were dating. We were like juniors in high school, and I wanted to show her The Sixth Sense. I'm like, oh, this is a classic movie. You'd love it. And so like 6 minutes into the movie, she turns to me and goes, wait, they didn't talk back to him. Is he dead? Is he a ghost? And I tried to play it off for a while.
keep
Like, I'm like,
watching.
keep watching.
Yeah.
No, he's not dead. And like 20 minutes, no, he's dead, isn't he? I'm like, dang it, Megan. So smart.
Really
Come
is.
on.
So funny. Well, we're going to go into our last article now. This is called How to Process Anxiety and Fear in the Wake of Mass Shootings, according to experts. This is a CNN Health article by John Duffy. So as many of you have heard, on May 14th, there was a mass shooting where an 18-year-old man shot 13 people and killed 10 of them at a grocery store in Buffalo, New York. The grocery store was in a predominantly black neighborhood, and based on the shooter's online activity, it was clearly a racially motivated hate crime. Now, I am hurting for this community. It's so frustrating every time you hear one of these. It just breaks my heart every time I hear that something like this is happening, and knowing that, you know, my black friends and family members, I'm sure they feel fear hearing this stuff, that they could be in the same situation at some point.
For sure. It hurts my heart as well that we kind of become numb almost to these article headlines, because they should shock us and, cause us to kind of introspect, think and just do something or, reach out, but they shouldn't be the norm. Right. And unfortunately for very long time now, they have been. And, so you think of like schools and movie theaters and clubs and grocery stores, like you just talked about, like it's easy to be fearful to go outside when no place seems safe anymore. So I hate that.
Yeah. And then the day after that, there was another shooting that happened at Geneva Presbyterian Church. It was a Taiwanese church in Laguna Woods, California. They were holding a luncheon for a pastor who had been away working in Taiwan when a man came in and opened fire. He ended up killing one person and 5 other were wounded. So like you said, I mean, we're becoming numb because of how often these things seem to be happening.
Yeah, and I mean, as we're all Jesus followers and we have a lot of, Christian friends. And so I know I've had people tell me that like fear and worry are sins and God tells us not to be anxious. So just like, don't be afraid, kind of a thing. It's all going to be fine. And I'm like, yeah, it's easier said than done, right? So like, what do we do as Christians when you are anxious and kind of fearful of these situations? But I think we've talked before that for me, like I try to realize that like fear is a God-given emotion, like happiness, sadness. Like it's not that you're supposed to feel fear necessarily, but you're just not supposed to obey it. Like healthy fear is good. It keeps us from not touching the hot stove, kind of a thing. But I believe, and maybe this isn't a hot take, I don't know, but like fear and faith, like they can coexist. And I know not everybody feels that way, and that's okay. But for me, one kind of drives me to the other. Like we feel fear, but we can choose God's truth instead.
Yeah,
it depends on what's in the driver's seat, right?
Sure.
Is fear in the driver's seat, or is fear in the back seat or the trunk? I think, if we're intellectually and emotionally honest, fear is always a part of a daily life. It just, you have that decision of what's in the driver's seat, or who are you fearing and what are you fearing in this moment. I think the challenge, so many challenges, and I'm trying to say my words carefully. But some of the challenge is just, it's moving from that fear that's just out there to, terror, which is, things that could come into normal everyday moments of our life, like grocery shopping or going to the movie, just brings another element of emotion to something that should be benign or maybe be a joyful experience. A couple years ago, my wife and I were in Florida, and after dinner one night, we went to go see the first Wonder Woman movie in a movie theater. And with like 30 minutes left in the movie, the alarm started going off, and like the movie shut off, and like it was like crazy because it was the first time in my life I'm like, oh my gosh, is something going on in the theater? And it ended up being just like a storm situation. But like, I grabbed my wife's hand and we went out like the emergency exits and everything. You just don't know. And it's those moments, especially for people of color or minorities in our country, that they're thinking about differently, because this is a story that seems to be on loop, that we just have not made the tough decision to change the story, move the narrative forward. And it's beyond frustrating and saddening, but I honestly just end up in a place of anger and frustration as of right now to how often. I mean, by the time this episode airs, there will probably be 2 to 3 more mass shootings in the wealthiest country in the history of the world where we live. And it's unacceptable. And I'd love for people from the left and the right to both at least acknowledge it's unacceptable and compromise to say that there are things that we can do to where this does not happen more often than a baseball game is played. So,
Yeah. But like you were saying, Allison, one of the suggestions in this article is to recognize that it is normal to be scared of these events and we don't have to hide our fear. I think as Christians, we tend to push it down, you know. God is in control. He'll take care of everything. We don't have to worry. But even though we say those things, there's still fear there. Yeah. You know, just because we say, oh, yeah, God's in control doesn't mean our fear is going to disappear. It's still there.
Yeah, and going back to what we were talking about earlier with the song from TikTok, I mean, maybe the most honoring thing we can do to God is to bring that fear to him and let him know and speak that out loud instead of hiding it or wearing a mask, believing that it's not there. But, I mean, I think most health begins with just acknowledging there's a problem and acknowledging there's an intruder in the story, and fear is that intruder.
Well, and I think it's important, too, for people to realize that, like, if you are anxious or fearful, like, you don't have less faith necessarily. It doesn't make you less of a, you know, Christian or a person. You're just struggling in that moment. Like, we are not defective because we feel fear. We're human. And so sometimes we just need to lean in to our faith in those kind of moments, like when you're scared and or fearful or anxious, all the things. But, you know, sometimes too, like, it's okay to recognize when you need additional support, because sometimes, like, you know, if you recognize you have changes in your eating or your sleeping or, you know, whatever, like, sometimes you need additional supports. And so I know we've talked before too, like, you know, we've all, I believe, seen a counselor at one point. So, like, if you find yourself extra fearful for the, you know, to go out or to be in these situations because you know, think something's going to happen, like, it is okay to go talk to someone and get additional help, because, you know, you're just replaying the same story over in your head a lot of times is not going to move you forward. So
yeah, and I think we can't underplay the power of community and other people that we can lock eyes with that are feeling the same things that we feel. It's not an indictment on your strength if you need help and support from other people. It's just a reality check that we need each other, and your Heavenly Father created you to need other people. And so two of the most powerful words that we can ever say to somebody else or have somebody say to us is, oh, you too? Like, I felt that same thing. And so the more that we are open and authentic with other people about how we're feeling, especially when it comes to fear or terror because of, you know, outbursts of violence, it's going to help us walk through it and to lock arms with somebody else.
Yeah. It's also been helpful for me when I think about, like, my anxiety and those things. Like, you know, Jesus died for, like, the anxious person and the worrier and the fearful and the controller, like, just as much as anyone else. So, you know, kind of my, I guess, bottom line is I don't want you to feel like if you are fearful or anxious that, like, you are less than or more or defective or that there's something wrong with you because you have these emotions.
I wanted to ask you, Allison, one of the points in the article, they really try to challenge parents specifically to understand you cannot shelter your kids from finding out about mass shootings or the possibility that they could be involved. So have you had those conversations with your girls that are now in, you know, college and high school? I mean, we mentioned earlier just off mic that you were in high school when Columbine, the first, you know, high profile high school shooting happened. Like, how do you walk towards that with your kids? I know we have a lot of parents that listen, kids in different age groups. And how do you do that?
It is very hard because you have the line of what's too much, to tell them, because you want to, not that you want to shelter them, but you do want to keep them children for as long as possible. But this is a different world than when I was, a small child. And so, yes, you do have to have these conversations. And at public school anyways, they have drills now, which is actually, man, I have a lot of feelings about that as well. But, because it creates a lot of anxiety in the kids as well. I know that all intentions are good and well because they want them to be prepared and they want them to know, kind of like a fire drill, this is what we do. But I hate the fact that that's even a thing that they have to have. Like, the fact that that's a drill makes me nauseous. But yeah, you do have to talk to your kids about, staying quiet and, if you know something is happening, or, fight or flight, these kinds of decisions. And they're not great. Honestly, as a
not
parent,
great options
they're
in
not
front of you.
great. Yeah. Like, do you teach, it's just so bad because there's so many situations, even in these drills at school, where they teach kids to like basically play dead. And I'm like, I do not want to have to tell my kid to do that. Like, the fact that that's even a thing, just, it hurts my heart. So,
Yeah. Well, another suggestion that the article had was taking action, getting involved might help with your anxiety. You can donate, march for the cause, or find ways to curb violence. It might help you feel empowered to be a part of something. For me, I don't know. It almost feels like a privilege take to just say, do these things and it might make you feel better about yourself.
here's $20 to the cause. Good luck.
Yeah. But I don't know. What do you guys think?
I hear that, and I can see how you could interpret it that way. To me, I'm thinking of it from more of a, being so fearful and anxious from the possibility of being terrorized. It feels so defensive and it feels defenseless. Like, that puts you in that moment of defenselessness. And I think that doing something to push back against the darkness that is gun violence, it's a little bit empowering, or it puts you a little bit more on offense in that way, to where I think I understand how that could help you feel less fearful, because you're like, okay, this is the world we live in, but we're gonna recognize the darkness that it is. But if I've got just 78, 80 years, and I've only got so much breath in my lungs, I want to be a part of pushing against what's going on. And so at least I'm going to be able to tell my kids and grandkids that I was trying to be part of the solution. And I'm always inspired by people that, look the ugliness of this world in the eyes and say, hey, like, maybe I can't change the whole world, but I can take one step and I can change the world in me and move forward. Yeah. And so I'm inspired by that and challenged probably a little bit because I think that that's part of the call of a Jesus follower that has been so put off for so long. I mean, I grew up in a version of faith where there was a lot of talk about getting saved and going to heaven. And that leads to some real shallow, self-centered worldview and theology, to where the more that I looked at Jesus and what he was doing in the gospel accounts, I mean, he was on offense. He was going around saying that the kingdom of God is near, it's at hand, come be a part of what I'm doing. And when you pray, don't just pray that you get to heaven, pray that heaven would invade earth and that you would bring the life of heaven that I'm bringing you to the people around you, and take my words seriously. So, and that can look like donating to a cause. That can look like marching. That can look like writing our elected officials and say, when is enough enough? Can we compromise and move forward? Because it doesn't have to be this way. It's not this way in so many other Western wealthy countries. And so I don't believe that Americans are the most inherently violent and evil people on earth. There's something we can do about this. So yeah, I'm encouraged and provoked by that thought of instead of just living on defense, let's be a part of the solution. Let's push back against the darkness and the brokenness of our world. And something that we say around our faith community all the time is that we want to be a community of people that are bringing the up there, the stuff of heaven, down here in Kokomo. And we want it to be in Kokomo as it is in heaven. And yes, that matters. If people are terrorized, it matters. If people are being hurt by gun violence and all the different things that matter in the here and now. And so, yeah, I'm challenged by that, taking action, getting involved. Let's get on the offense instead of just complaining about how bad it is. And it is bad, and we need to say that it's bad, but I don't think that we ever have the excuse to just take our foot off the gas and say, oh, this world's terrible. We need to be a part of the solution, and that's what Jesus is calling us to do.
Well, that's all we have for today. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to talk about, you can email those to atypicaltalkpod@gmail.com. Also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at atypicaltalkpod, and make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. We hope that these conversations today have helped you think wider, love deeper, and partner with God to bring the up there down here in your everyday life. Thanks for tuning in.